The White House is working to figure out how to provide more aid for Ukraine.
Yeah, Congress narrowly voted a government shutdown this weekend, but one of the key elements removed from the package was additional funding for Ukraine.
CBS News chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes joins us now. Nancy, there is word about a deal between the White House and the Speaker for funding for Ukraine. What's the latest?
Well, it's somewhat perplexing, Lilia and Tony. Yesterday, when President Biden spoke to reporters, I asked him a question about the possibility of future deals with Speaker McCarthy, and that's the first time he raised the prospect of some kind of Ukraine deal. He actually said, well, we just made a deal about Ukraine. We were surprised when he said that because we hadn't heard anything up until that point about a deal for Ukraine. And obviously the reason that this is in the news is because over the weekend, Congress had voted to avert a government shutdown, but the House Speaker had dropped new funding for Ukraine, $24 billion worth, because of objections from some congressional Republicans. And so the fact that President Biden said that actually there was a deal suggesting that somehow there was a promise made to bring this funding back up for the vote in the coming days, that was news. But today, as many of us tried to ask the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, about that deal, what it might look like, whether it exists at all, we didn't really get any clear-cut answers. Take a listen to part of my exchange with Karine.
Is that we know that there's bipartisan support, right, for Ukraine funding. And that is what we're saying. We're saying that there's bipartisan support. There has been. We appreciate the bipartisan support that we've seen for Ukraine from the beginning, and we believe that's going to continue. And so that is what we see, and that's how we see this moving forward.
Well, why would the president say that he made a deal if he didn't?
I'm just saying that what we're seeing currently from Congress is that there has been, right? There has been overwhelming support. That is what the president said. A majority of Congress showing overwhelming support to continue that support for Ukraine, and that's what we're going to continue to. That's what we want to continue to see.
Did the speaker provide some kind of back channel assurance that he would bring Ukraine funding up for a vote? Is that what he was referring to?
No, I don't even think the speaker needs to do back channel. He himself said yesterday that I support being able to make sure Ukraine has the weapons that they need. He said that. He is, and we expect him to keep his word on that.
But then I guess I'm just trying to understand what the president meant when he said we just made a deal.
What I'm saying to you is that we have seen bipartisan support from Congress to continue the funding in Ukraine. That's what we expect, and that's what we want to continue to see. We've heard from Speaker McCarthy himself just yesterday saying that he wants to continue that support, and that's what we want to see moving forward.
Is it possible the president made a deal that you don't know about?
I'm just saying that I'm not going to go beyond what the president said. Just not going to go beyond.
Was what he said true?
I'm not going to go beyond what the president said.
So you won't say that what he said was true?
I'm not going to go beyond.
So there you have it. It's unclear whether the president made a deal, whether he didn't make a deal, whether he simply misspoke yesterday in response to my question, or whether there is some sort of secret arrangement and he said the quiet part out loud. Those are the types of questions that we're asking right now of the White House press secretary as this starts to take on a life of its own, guys. Just a short time ago on the House floor, Matt Gaetz, the Florida Republican who's trying to strip McCarthy of his speakership, was railing against the possibility of a secret deal over Ukraine that no one knows about.
Well, there you go. If there's more to say about that part of the equation, let's hear it, because that was going to be my follow-up question. You know, if Matt Gaetz was already mistrustful of Speaker McCarthy, to hear this, maybe oops, maybe not, from President Biden, and then your trenchant follow-up upon follow-up upon follow-up, I got to imagine now Matt Gaetz is even more agitated and potentially interested in removing Kevin McCarthy. Does the White House have a role in trying to navigate this disagreement, or is it all just sort of in the Republican camp?
Well, they very pointedly stayed out of it today. Karine was asked repeatedly whether the president has any view on whether Speaker McCarthy should be able to keep his speakership, whether Democrats should help him if if Gates does bring forth a resolution to try to strip him of his speakership. Democrats could certainly save him if they wanted to, if they voted to keep him in that role. But Democrats are at least Democratic leadership, are playing their cards very close to the vest at this point and not saying what they would do. But certainly this provides more fodder for Matt Gaetz.
Yeah.
And obviously the White House is going to have to explain at some point what the president meant when he said this.
So if the president just misspoke, it seems like they're complicating it further than just saying the president misspoke.
True. Or, these are
there's a
always
deal.
delicate negotiations, and it's possible that there were some back-channel discussions, and McCarthy, who supports Ukraine aid and has said that out loud, may have said to Democrats, I am going to do this eventually, and that's what the president was referring to.
Right, right.
All right, Nancy Cordes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.